Hey you, it's CovertGo2, and the last two Praetors from March of the Machine have been revealed. Let's check them out together, because that's what we do here. So this is Sheoldred. Just Sheoldred. 3 black legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor with Menace, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature or planeswalker. For 4 and a black, exile Sheoldred, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery and only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. That's a pretty high order, and the backside goes like this. A Saga, the True Scriptures. 1, for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. 2, each opponent discards 3 cards, then mills 3 cards. And 3, put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Exile the True Scriptures, then return it to the battlefield. You get removal, you get a discard 3, and you get Rise of the Dark Realms. Wow. So let's evaluate Sheoldred, and will it see play like Sheoldred the Apocalypse certainly has. So a 4/5 menace for 5 is fine, but when it enters the battlefield, the opponent has to sacrifice a non-token creature or planeswalker. If you are able to manage the board and keep it from going wide, then this card becomes very, very good because you're often killing off their one good thing. There are plenty of decks right now that play, good things. The other Sheoldred, for example, and a variety of planeswalkers. There are also a lot of tokens in the format, so your Sheoldred often hits very well. But it won't always hit what you want it to hit, and it might even become a play pattern if this card even starts to sniff popularity to make sure that you'll always have another smaller creature out there to sacrifice to Sheoldred. It's a very blinkable card. That is a nice enters the battlefield trigger, a very reanimatable card. How about the part where you get all that cool stuff on the backside? 8 cards in one graveyard is a lot. A card that can help with this is Jace the Perfected Mind. But for the most part, a lot of games do not get to the point where there are 8 cards chilling in graveyards without something happening to really end the game. This Sheoldred is interesting from a standard perspective because it's not clear exactly how it will line up. It really depends more on the meta and both the best of 1 and best of 3 formats that tend to vary widely in how effective these things are. But as far as a 5-mana card goes, this is a pretty good one. It just the floor is low where you just make them sacrifice a Skrelv and then they still beat you to death with their Ao and their Rafine and their stuff. And the ceiling is also high where you slam this and kill the opponent's Sheoldred or take out the opponent's Kaya. Remember that card? 7-mana planeswalker, can't be targeted. Well, this can take care of it. So the range on this card is tremendous. Of course, in Commander, where the graveyards get much fuller and the price to transform this isn't nearly as unachievable, it becomes very exciting to consider doing the True Scriptures to your opponents because, man, they're not going to like any of this at all. And if you do fill your opponent's graveyard, the fact that you can play this on 5 and then if they don't deal with it right away, you can spend 5 to transform it and get another removal spell and even more value is brutal. I think this card is pretty good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's busted. It's got a huge range, and that means it could be a bulk mythic from a standard and constructed perspective, but could also be heavily played when the format lines up correctly. I'm really not sure, but as far as having something like a Fleshbrag Marauder, something that makes each opponent sacrifice a creature in 2023 standard, this is about as close as we're probably going to get to a very, very playable one. So it's Sheoldred's last round. For those of you who follow the story, all her limbs don't quite make it out attached to the same body. So good for you, Sheoldred. Get him. Where's that apocalypse you were bringing? Anyway, the other Praetor, Urabrask. Why is Urabrask always the worst? Let's find out if this Urabrask keeps up the tradition. 2 red, legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor. Why does this card look so janky? I don't know. I think it was the arena preview, so it's like I got it in my email, but this version on Scryfall looks all weirdly digital. I don't know what's going on. 2 red, legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor, mythic 4/4 first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent. Pew. And you add red. They almost snuck that in there. See, there's a period and then there's another line, and it's a very short, simple line. Add red, period. Okay. Then for red, exile Urabrask, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery, only if you cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn. We knew there had to be a catch because that is a very low amount of mana to ask for. Then we transform it into the Great Work. The Great Work is a saga, and for chapter 1, it deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Nice. Chapter 2, 3 treasure tokens. Nice. Chapter 3, until end of turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. Any graveyard? Any graveyard? All the graveyards? Instants and sorceries from every graveyard, and when you assume that you probably have at least 3 in your own graveyard, that's pretty amazing. However, worth noting, while this is on this side, oh wait, never mind. I was going to say on this side you don't get the mana back, but you do because it's actually chapter 3. And when chapter 3 triggers, this end of turn thing happens, and then you exile this and you return it on this side, and then you cast the spells and you get the red mana. Nice. This is kind of a wild card, and looking at formats like Commander and Historic Brawl, a Storm Off combo kill the table type card, which is very, very powerful. Kind of your whole deck is a combo with your Commander and you win. For Standard, it's not the worst, but it's not tremendously different from some of the other cards we've seen, like the Red Defiler. The adding a red mana is legitimately scary, and as far as casting 3 or more instants or sorceries in your red deck, I've done that plenty of times with the current version of red that runs the pump spells as well as the burn spells. It's not that wild to cast 3 spells in a turn. It happens. So there might be a world where this gets a little bit of play. However, I will say that both of these are striking me as Commander, not staples, but very popular commanders people will really like building around and experimenting with. But in Standard, these are both 4 and 5 mana mythics in a very developed Standard, so they might have to wait to rotation to really have the impact you want to make. Even with all its sweet abilities, are you really going to put a 4-drop Urabrask into your mono red deck that's just winning on turn 4 already if you have cheaper spells? Probably not. And does Sheoldred need to play with Esper Legends in order to make that deck better? It might be good to have 1 or 2 in certain matchups, but for the most part, we're probably looking at a couple of sideboard slots, so probably not. Both of these cards, though, offer a lot for post-rotation Standard. I think that when the fall comes around, you're going to be saying, oh my gosh, these are a little bit better than I expected them to be. But for now, I hope you play Commander. If you don't, you should. It's a really sweet format because these are the places that these cards are definitely meant to shine. So I think I've reviewed all of the Praetors now. I definitely did Vorinclex, and I definitely did Jin-Gitaxias and Norn. So yeah, we know our Praetors. I think Norn is the best one, and we'll see how it plays out in Standard. Thank you for watching this video. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Tell me in the comments, what's your favorite Standard Praetor from this set? You're cool.